Welcome to Be Well. I am Lisa Bragaw, pharmacist, yoga teacher, and health coach. Each week, we'll explore simple, science-informed ways for us to move better, feel more resilient, and feel more at home in our bodies. From breath work and strength training to sleep, hormones, and healthy habits, we're here to help you age well and truly thrive, one small step at a time. This is Be Well.
Hi, this is Lisa Bragaw, and this is Be Well. Today we're going to talk about sleep and how important it is to get good sleep and some tips and tricks to help you get better sleep, including, if necessary, medications or supplements and the pros and cons of that. And, here on Be Well, we talk a lot about a good health span, not just living longer, but living well and thriving. And sleep is one of the best tools that we have to do that. And it's something I think in our culture we either don't prioritize, or we feel like we don't have time and we are busy, and we maybe sacrifice our sleep because of that, or we're not getting good quality sleep. And there's so many reasons about that. We've discussed that on so many of the episodes already. So creating healthy bedtime routines and wake up routines, and also the other things that we can do all throughout the day to improve our quality of sleep and get deep rest so that we can feel better and get more done and have really good quality sleep as well. So let me just ask you, just think back over the last few days. How has your sleep been? Have you gotten good sleep? Are you getting to bed when you want to get to bed? Are you falling asleep okay? Are you waking up in the middle of the night? Are you waking up early and not getting a full night's sleep? Are you waking up in the middle of a sleep cycle because your alarm clock jolted you awake? And all of those are different ways that our sleep can be affected. So if we are not falling asleep and we're kind of ruminating and we've got TV on and the phone nearby and all that, that's going to affect our quality of sleep. So the way that what happens when we have a poor night's sleep is we can become irritable. We can make poor choices in food, like we might crave sugary foods. We might get, extra doses of caffeine. We might have a big afternoon crash or suffer from brain fog and difficulty concentrating. And so we become very inefficient and feel like we're spinning our wheels and aren't actually getting things done. Not only these signs of poor sleep that we can experience during the day, day to day, which we usually will notice, but it can affect us long term. It can affect our heart health. It can affect our brain health. Over long periods of time of poor sleep, we've seen increased risks of dementia and increased dementia, Alzheimer's, hypertension, cardiac issues, diabetes, pain and inflammation, and just increased stress response. When we get good sleep, we feel better, we thrive, we're more focused, we make better choices in general in all areas of our life. We eat better, we move better, and then it kind of perpetuates itself. So it is really worth investing your time into prioritizing your sleep. And so I do want to talk a little bit about just a basic sleep cycle. So I was mentioning earlier, if you're falling asleep late, or you're waking up early, or you're waking up in the middle of the night, it's going to affect your sleep in different ways. It's going to affect your health in different ways. So a typical sleep cycle lasts about 90 minutes, 90 to 120 minutes, and it goes from a wakeful state to non-REM. And some people have just non-REM as states, categorize it in one stage, and others define it in two. So I have it broken out here in two different stages. So non-REM, non-rapid eye movement, stage 1 is when our sleep spindles start to appear and memory consolidation begins. So that's kind of like your brain is starting to just file things away during the day and put them in the right parts of your brain. So it's just organizing. Non-REM stage 2 is our deepest sleep stage, and it's where we see tissue repair and immune strengthening. This is where the growth and the healing happens. And then it goes into REM sleep, a rapid eye movement. And this is where we have vivid dreamings, and we see the eyes moving if you're observing somebody in this stage of their sleep. And the brain's really highly active. And then we see deep sleep, which is really slow brain waves. And it's really hard to wake somebody up during this stage. Their body temperature drops, and their bodies become very still. And then as that stage starts to dissipate, it goes back to light sleep where some drowsiness sets in, slower eye movement, and reduced muscle activity. And then you may wake up again. And then ideally, this stage will repeat itself. And we go through about 3 to 4 of these sleep cycles per night. If we get woken up in the middle of one of these cycles, it can really affect us, as I mentioned before. The early stages of sleep in the early evening, when you first go to sleep, is when we start to see more stages or longer periods in our deep sleep. And then towards morning time, we see more stages of that REM sleep. And it's interesting because if you wake up too early and you haven't gotten through all your stages of your REM sleep, you might be thinking, I only missed an hour of sleep, but really you could be missing 50% of your REM sleep, for example. Or you might be falling asleep late and thinking you're going to catch up on your sleep, but you've missed a good chunk of your deep sleep. So it's important to try to get through all those different cycles. And it's also important to try not to be disturbed during one of the cycles. So if you have an alarm that's jolting you awake, or you're hitting the snooze button and putting yourself back into a full sleep cycle and you don't get a full 90 minutes to go through all those cycles, it can really create all those signs and symptoms of poor sleep, like the drowsiness and the brain fog and things like that. So when we are in those different stages of sleep, we see growth, we see repair, we see rest, and it improves our vitality during the day. The other thing that's kind of interesting, and I love this, it's more new science, is when we're sleeping, it's almost like the brain is going through the rinse cycle, like in your dishwasher or in your washing machine, and it's washing out amyloid bodies and tau bodies that build up in our brain. The cerebrospinal fluid start to flush it out of the brain. Accumulation of those bodies, of those substances, are linked to dementia and Alzheimer's. So it's really important to try to get into that rinse cycle as well as the other sleep cycles. And those are normal proteins that occur in our bodies, but if we don't get enough sleep and we don't get the right stages of sleep, those proteins can build up and cause trouble down the road. So there's lots of things that we could focus on. In other episodes, we've talked about a nighttime routine and, maybe winding down like you would for a child. If you have children around you, little children, you tend to put them on a sleep schedule. You have a whole nighttime routine, you do your dinner and then the bath and the stories, and you take a while to get into that opportunity to actually get them into bed. So bedtime isn't necessarily when you fall asleep. Trying to figure out how much sleep you need is almost a reverse engineering procedure. So if you want to figure out what time you should go to bed, think about what time you want to wake up. Trying to keep a consistent schedule, even on weekends, trying to wake up at the same time is really helpful for maintaining healthy sleep and good quality sleep. So say, for example, you want to wake up at 6 p.m. and you want to get 8 hours of sleep. That means you need to be asleep by 10 p.m., which means your bedtime maybe is 8:30, 9, 9:30, depending on how long it takes you to fall asleep. And what's going to help you get into that deeper sleep mode, falling asleep quicker, staying asleep longer. There's a lot of things that we can do. Sleep hygiene is it's very widely talked about, and it's creating little daily habits that start in the morning. First thing you could do is look at sunlight during the day. Early in the morning, trying to get good sunlight, ideally not through a window, looking at, not directly at the sun, of course, but looking at natural light within an hour of getting up can help to reset your own natural body clock or your circadian rhythm. It actually can help to stimulate the serotonin production in our brain and shut down the melatonin production, which is, they're made from the same endocrine glands in our brain. Also movement, and it doesn't have to be anything really physical, especially at night. You don't want to do really vigorous activity at night, but moving your body physically for at least 30 minutes a day regularly can really improve your sleep quality and will also help you fall asleep better at night. If you move your body gently before bed, it can also help, but too much vigorous exercise before bed can be too stimulating. Limiting alcohol and caffeine are also really great. So caffeine has a very long half-life, and some people are very affected by that. I know I don't even have a lot of caffeine. I have just a little bit of black tea, like 1 cup a day, and I can't have that past 11 a.m. or else I have trouble sleeping. So limiting your caffeine intake, especially in the afternoon. This graphic says 2 p.m. I know I can't go past 11 a.m., so you have to figure out what works for you, but it can disrupt your sleep patterns and also the ability to fall asleep because of the stimulating effects. Also limiting alcohol consumption. Sometimes alcohol makes us feel sedated and it's going to help us sleep. It can help us fall asleep, but it actually disrupts our sleep cycles. So the quality and the structure of our sleep is impaired. So trying to limit alcohol is really helpful. Dimming your lights. Blue light during the day is stimulating. So being on your computer without blue light glasses in the morning might be okay. Being on your computer or your phone or watching TV at night and seeing more of that blue light can actually start to stimulate your brain. Your brain thinks you're going to be active and alert and awake, and so those blue lights can be really an impediment to your good sleep. Other things for good hygiene, good sleep hygiene, is to not eat too late in the day, so not eating a heavy meal within 2 to 3 hours of your sleep. Heavy meals, especially spicy and fatty, they really just will sit in your stomach, and that can really disrupt your sleep because now your digestive system is being turned on and asked to work, and it just doesn't help sleep because it's heating things up, and we want a cooler body to just let the brain know it's time for us to rest. If you are feeling hungry before bed, opt for something small, a little snack, maybe some nuts, some sort of maybe a light protein and complex carbohydrate, perhaps some fruit or some veggies right before bed, but nothing that's too spicy. And then nighttime rituals are very, very helpful. I've mentioned already just getting into a routine. We've talked about this in previous episodes, keeping a gratitude journal, thinking about what went well that day so that you don't go to bed stewing about all the things that didn't go well and all the things you still have to do. Staying off of your phone or keeping your phone out of the room is even better. I keep my phone in another room and I have it charging in another room. I do wear a watch that will wake me up, so I have my sleep do not disturb button pressed when I go to sleep, so my alarm will wake me up so I don't have to worry about missing my alarm in the morning. It also monitors my sleep, so I get to see if I'm getting into all of those sleep cycles, and if I'm not, where am I missing it? Where am I staying awake? Where am I not getting into the deep sleep modes? And then it's just something that I am conscious of, and so I focus on trying to improve those different states. And keeping the room cool, not super cold, but cool, not too warm, and dark. Using an eye mask, blackout curtains, things like that can be really helpful. So just creating that nighttime ritual and setting the room up for success. So I mentioned already about exercise. Exercise is great during the day. It's going to help reset your body so that you can sleep later in the day. A little bit of light stretching, gentle movements before bed can also be really relaxing and restoring. So figuring out what stimulates you and what calms you is part of this practice, right? So journaling, as I mentioned, can be really helpful, especially gratitude journaling. If you're going to write things you're grateful for right before bed, that's what's going to be on your mind as you drift off to sleep. If you're thinking about all your to-do lists and all the things that you didn't get done, that might create a little bit more angst and you might have more trouble sleeping. So I mentioned keeping your room dark and just conducive to sleep is super helpful. Reducing screen times at least an hour or more before bed. And this is because the blue light it's not just that it stimulates you, but it also suppresses our melatonin. It keeps that serotonin production going, and we don't make as much melatonin, which is part of the hormonal system that regulates our sleep cycle or the circadian rhythm. So I've had several people ask me recently, like many people, this is why it spurred me to do this episode on this topic this week, is people have been asking me a lot about what can I do to help me sleep? What medication should I take? Is CBD, are the gummies safe? Should I use that? Is it okay to take sleeping pills? I had a woman ask me about her 94-year-old mother who's been on Ambien for years and years and years, and what should she do? So there are so many sleep aids out there, and which one is right for you, if any? And that's a really important conversation to have with your healthcare provider and see what works for you. So ideally, figuring out why you're not sleeping and going to the root of the problem is really the first step. If you're not sleeping because of specific things, can you change those things? Sometimes medications are needed, and it could be, you're going through a really stressful time in your life, or a major event has happened and you really just need a sleep aid to get you through. It should be used in conjunction with other things like behavioral changes, increasing your sleep hygiene routines, resolving whatever those problems are, what's causing your stress, if you can deal with those. And used intermittently, ideally, so that you're not reliant on them. Some of the sleep aids, the prescription sleep medications, are actually addicting, physically addicting, also psychologically addicting. And I think that is really the bigger problem. If you're used to taking a sleeping pill to go to sleep and you don't have that sleeping pill, now you're remembering and thinking about the fact that you don't have that sleeping pill. And so you're going to think about that. I don't have my sleeping pill, so I'm not going to sleep. I don't have my sleeping pill, so I'm not going to sleep. And you're going to start to get into that loop, and you won't sleep. So if you could figure out other ways to help your sleep without relying on medications or without relying on herbals or supplements, that is ideal. There are some herbals that you can use pretty regularly that are safe, like chamomile tea, or having lavender spray. The aromatherapy of lavender can be very calming. Chamomile tea is a really nice, just having a nice warm cup of tea as part of your nighttime ritual could be a really lovely thing. Taking a warm bath with some aromatherapy in it, that's calming and relaxing for you. Things like citrus oils are very stimulating, and peppermint is stimulating, but lavender, chamomile, those are very calming, grounding, and relaxing. So incorporating some of that. And it could be that you spray some lavender spray on your pillow. It could be that, again, you have that warm cup of tea with your chamomile. So there's a lot of things you can do there. Over-the-counter products that are generally considered safe, and again, this show is for informational purposes only. It's really important you talk to your healthcare provider and see what's right for you. Make sure that there's no contraindications to your health or to any other medications that you're on, that there's no drug interactions. But in general, things like magnesium, especially magnesium glycinate, can be helpful for sleep. Many of us are deficient in magnesium. Some types of magnesium can actually cause diarrhea, so you want to be careful with that. Magnesium glycinate tends to cause less of that, but it can still. But it can also promote relaxation, and it's not really considered a sleeping pill. It doesn't cause drowsiness per se, so it's less risk of adverse events like falling because you're drowsy or sedated, or you get dizzy and blurred vision, where some of the sleep medications that are prescription, they can cause that. There's different categories of prescription sleep aids, and there's antidepressants, there's anti-anxiety medications like benzodiazepines, and the non-benzodiazepines. Also, antihistamines are sometimes used, and antihistamines are also available over the counter. If you've ever taken a medication with a PM after it, over the counter, like Tylenol PM, Advil PM, those are really just that pain reliever plus Benadryl. So if you don't need the pain reliever portion of it, you could just take the Benadryl portion of it to get that sleep portion. However, antihistamines like Benadryl can cause a lot of sedation. You can get grogginess in the morning, you can get dry eyes, dry mouth, and it can also cause urinary retention, which is a concern, especially in older people and older men who have prostate issues, for example. You don't want to be creating more urinary retention. So adding an antihistamine might not be the best choice, even though it's available over the counter. Melatonin is another product that's available over the counter. Melatonin is something that we make, and it's ideal to try to enhance your own melatonin production as opposed to taking it as a supplement. Melatonin taken as a supplement is helpful more so with people who work shift work or swing shifts or are traveling and have jet lag, more so than taking it on the regular as a general sleep aid. And also, the ones that are available over the counter are often way more than we need. The amounts that we need are really small amounts. And again, it's ideal if you can just make your own body make the melatonin on its own. And that could be, again, getting that direct sunlight in the daytime, early in the morning, shutting down overhead lighting at night using the blue light glasses. That can also help. We make melatonin and serotonin in the same gland, and it's signaled by our eyes. So our eyes signal to that gland in your brain, okay, it's daylight now, okay, it's nighttime now. But now we have overhead lights and electric lights in computers, so it's very different than our ancestors, where their brains knew to turn on and turn off the serotonin and the melatonin. Some of the other drawbacks of using sleep aids are it changes your sleep structure. You don't get through all of those different sleep cycles. You might fall asleep, but you might not get REM sleep, or you might not get deep sleep. It depends on which agent that you're using. There is an antidepressant that is safely used generally for some people called trazodone, and that can actually, it's one of the only ones that has been shown to improve the sleep architecture, to get you back into your circadian rhythm when taken regularly. And again, that's done under the supervision of your medical provider. So there are pros and there are cons to each one, and it's worth having that discussion. If you're really suffering and you're not sleeping well and it's been a long time and you really just are feeling exhausted and you really need some help, by all means, have that conversation. It's not terrible to take sleeping aids. If you do need to take them, also incorporating these sleep hygiene techniques and other things that are going to help just improve your sleep architecture so you're not reliant on those medications forever. Using them as a crutch, using them as a tool and a stepping stone is really better. And if you can use them intermittently, not relying on them every night, but just if you're really struggling, you haven't slept a couple nights in a row, or you know you have to get some sleep because you have something important coming up. Remembering though that in the morning you might be groggy as a side effect of those medications. You might have that fogginess as if you didn't get a good night's sleep. What I am mostly concerned with is falling, because if you are on a sleep aid and you get up in the middle of the night, say to go to the bathroom, and you're groggy or the sedation effects are still lingering, you're at higher risk for falling. And that really is concerning, because when people fall, if they break their hip, then that just spirals into a whole other issue of medical problems, and it can really cause a lot of deconditioning in patients. So generally not considered recommended to use long term, but again, as a stepping stone in conjunction with other things, I think that it can be done safely when it's done well with, in combination with your medical provider. So starting with healthy sleep habits, creating healthy habits that are easy for you to implement. We've talked about this in several other episodes about creating healthy habits that make things easier for you. Like before you go to bed, lay out your clothes for tomorrow. Get your coffee maker ready so you just have to hit the button. Get your towel and your face cloth ready for the shower, or whatever it is that's going to help make your morning a little bit easier so you're not feeling rushed in the morning. Trying to wake up a little bit earlier than your alarm, and that we can't always control, right? But if you set your alarm a little earlier so you don't feel so rushed, and it only has to be maybe 5 minutes earlier, 10 minutes earlier, and creating this just container for yourself, the morning and the end of your day. Let them be sacred times, all for you. Trying to create a wind down so that before you go to bed, you just kind of easing your way into that sleep and you're not feeling rushed. If you do tend to have like a busy mind before bed, keep a piece of paper or a little notebook by your bed. And as the ideas pop up, jot them down, get them out of your head, and then you can go back to bed. And knowing that that piece of paper is there, if you do wake up in the middle of the night, like I wake up in the middle of the night with like the greatest ideas, and I'm like, I'm gonna forget that, I'm gonna forget that. So I just jot it down. It's out, it's gone, and then I go back to sleep. And if I don't, then I sit there and think about it and think about it and think about it. And then I find that my sleep is not doing very well for that night. And then I'm tired and I don't get the stuff done the next day. So I really encourage you to take a look at your own sleep, your sleep quality, how you feel during the day, and see what those symptoms throughout the day is telling you. Like, do you need more sleep? Are you getting good sleep? Do you need to have some help? Talk to your doctor about perhaps a sleep aid if it's appropriate. Talk to your pharmacist. And if you've got any concerns and things don't feel right, make sure that you discuss that with your providers. And anything you can do just to make yourself feel cozy before you go to bed, make your bedroom comfortable, decluttered, cool, and do things like being on the phone, watching the TV, being on your computer. Keep that out of your bedroom and keep your bedroom a sacred place for you to fall asleep. So just in closing, I just want to say that it's not something that you earn. Sleep is not something you earn after you've done everything else on your to-do list. Sleep is something to prioritize so you can do all the things on your to-do list and do them with more efficiency and more vitality and more grace. And I hope that this helps you and you can take one little bit of information that you learned today, or that was just a reminder to take care of your body, of your brain, and of just your health span. And I hope that this helps you to be well.
Thank you for joining me on Be Well. I hope today's conversation inspires at least one simple way for you to support yourself. Before you step back into your day, pause and choose one uplifting action you can gift yourself. What's your one thing going to be? Remember, small, consistent steps create meaningful change. Until next time, take a breath, take care, and be well.